Today, we're going to learn about a great hero of the faith, a lady named Esther. And you'll find her story in the Bible book, Esther. Now, the book of Esther is weird. It's weird because God's name is not mentioned, not even once. And you think he would be, because in the book, God's people are facing destruction and annihilation. Their lives hang by a thread. It looks like all the promises made to Abraham are going to come to naught. It looks like God's people are going to be destroyed, and if there's no Jews, then there's no Jesus. You'd think God would be heavily involved in a story like this. And yet, there's no prophets, there's no miracles, there's no walls of Jericho tumbling down. Very strange. Where is God? And Esther's not a very religious book either. There's no prayer. The only religious practice mentioned is fasting. Weird. Now, the church has had a problem with Esther down through the years and have wondered, why is it even in the Bible? Martin Luther, the great reformer, he didn't think it should be. But I think it's a fantastic story, and it provides us great encouragement. It shows us how a hidden God works behind the scenes to deliver his people, and he doesn't need to use miracles. He just uses everyday people doing everyday things to achieve amazing things. It's brilliant. Let's open the book. So King Xerxes is ruler of the world. His kingdom extends from Iran, Iraq, Syria, Egypt, Israel, Jordan, Turkey, as well as parts of Pakistan, India, Russia, Greece. His empire is huge. One day, King Xerxes decides to show off his wealth and his power by holding a big, an expo, a world fair to show off all the wealth that he's plundered from all the kingdoms that he's conquered. A bit like the British Museum. At the end of this time, Xerxes holds a week-long banquet for his princes, for his nobles and his military leaders. And as the men wander into the palace, they are amazed by the opulence on display. There's mosaics made of precious stones, there's furniture made of silver and gold, there's wine served in goblets of gold like this. Look at the workmanship on that. And get this, each goblet is different. There's no cheap mass production here. And at the end of the 7 days, the Bible says Xerxes is in high spirits. That's a Bible euphemism for wasted, pie-eyed, 3 sheets to the wind, drunk, whatever. Xerxes is in high spirits, and he calls for his wife, Queen Vashti. Come on, love, come on, do a little dance for me and the guys. And Queen Vashti thinks to herself, do I want to be ogled at by a bunch of drunken, leering men? Let me see. No thanks, I think I'll pass. Now, saying no to the most powerful man in the world is a big no-no. The Me Too movement hasn't yet taken root in Xerxes' kingdom. Some of the men giggle. Ha 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 ha! Most powerful man in the world. He can't even control his own wife. Xerxes is humiliated. What should he do? His advisors warn him. Queen Vashti's behaviour could set a dangerous precedent. What if all Persian women suddenly decide to disrespect their husbands like this? Well, we'll have a Persian women's lib movement in no time. What a nightmare! So Xerxes decides to banish his wife. Well, what else can he do? Sadly, Xerxes was not very enlightened when it came to those with the XX chromosome, despite having two X's in his name. Anyway, now Vashti's history. There's a vacancy for queen. How do you find a wife if you're the most powerful man in the world? Well, you hold a Miss World competition, don't you? What else do you do? And so Xerxes' men go out and select the most beautiful women in the land. One man named Mordecai, don't worry, he doesn't enter the competition, this is not that story. Mordecai looks at his beautiful cousin Esther and he said, you should have a go. But whatever you do, don't tell them you're Jewish. Esther's Persian name is Hadassah, which means hidden. Hadassah, hide your identity and go for it. Enter the competition, which is what she does. Now, the girls who pass the opening stages of the competition, they then get through to the next round where there's a whole year of beauty, makeup, cosmetic program to make them look absolutely ravishing. And I thought my wife took a long time to get ready. And at the end of all this beauty treatment, Esther wins. Woohoo! She's a real life Cinderella. She's made queen, there's a wedding, there's a public holiday, and then she gets bored and moves to Canada. No, this is not that story. Esther is queen, the poor, orphan, child of refugees, is now queen. What an incredible turnaround. If this was a fairy tale, we'd now end the story and she lives happily ever after. But no, this is a true story, so there's more trouble to come. Throughout the lead up to the final, Mordecai has been coming every day to the courtyard of the king to listen out for news of Esther. He can't see her because she's in the harem and only eunuchs are allowed to see the women. So he has to pass messages via eunuchs. It's kind of an early version of parent mail, except the males can't be parents. Apart from that, anyway, early version of parent mail. And he passes messages to his cousin. Anyway, while he's hanging around in the courtyard, he overhears a plot to assassinate King Xerxes. I wonder what you would do. You and your family are held captives in a foreign land, ruled by a tyrant, and you overhear somebody plotting to kill the tyrant. Would you foil the assassination attempt? Or would you wish the plotters happy Guy Fawkes night? Mordecai, being a good Jew, fears God, honours the king, reports it like a good Persian citizen, and the plotters are killed. And Mordecai's name is recorded in the annals of the king. So the stage is now set. Everyone is in place. Enter Haman. Boo! Haman is an Amalekite. The Amalekites are deadly enemies of the Jews, and Haman is related to King Agag. He's an Agagite, so the king of the Amalekites. And he becomes prime minister. And all the other nobles bow and scrape and bow down and worship him. But Mordecai refuses because he's a Jew. And Jews worship God. They don't worship people. Now this infuriates Haman. So much so, Haman plots to kill Mordecai and the entire Jewish population. So no overreaction there. Haman is the Adolf Eichmann of his day, plotting a final solution, a holocaust of the Jews, all because one particular Jew didn't bow and scrape to him. Pretty extreme, isn't it? So Haman and his team cast Pur, which are little dice, and they read the dice, and they set a date for the destruction of the entire Jewish people. Then Haman tells Xerxes, Your Majesty, there's this people. They're living in our kingdom. They're foreigners. They keep themselves to themselves. They're not like us. They don't follow our customs. They're lawbreakers. They're criminals. They're not as tolerant and loving as us. So let's wipe them out. That sounds good, says Xerxes. Make it so. Now, Esther's unaware of this evil scheme. She's living a life of luxury in the palace. So Mordecai sends her a message via the parent mail. You need to speak to Xerxes and you need to beg for mercy for our people. But Esther responds, it can't be done. You've got to be summoned into the king's court. You don't just barge in there. Otherwise you'll be killed. The only way you can survive is if he extends his golden scepter to you, and only then are you allowed to speak. Otherwise, I'm the queen, and even I haven't had a summons for 30 days. Mordecai replies, Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to royal position for such a time as this? Esther thinks about this, and she replies, Go, gather all the Jews in the capital, and hold a fast for 3 days for me. Me and my maids will do the same, and then I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish. Now let's just stop there and look at the lessons that we learn from the main actors on the stage. Firstly, Esther. I am inspired by her courage. She had a choice. Keep living her lavish lifestyle, keep her identity secret, or risk it all and possibly lose her life. That's her choice. But it's a choice she's willing to take. If I perish, I perish. Don't think it was easy for her. She had no word of knowledge, no comforting prophecy telling her that she would survive. She was as much in the dark as anyone else was at that time about whether the Jews would survive. As far as she was concerned, this would probably be it, death. But she put her trust in the Lord. Fast for me for 3 days. Me and my maids will do the same, and then we'll do it. Incredible courage. Esther made the choice. It's the same choice Jesus offers us. Jesus said, For whoever wants to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for me and the gospel will save it. What good is it for a man to gain the whole world, yet forfeit his soul? In this time of lockdown, when coronavirus is doing its worst, maybe now is the time to ask, who is your king? I wonder if following him means giving up your job, your freedom, whatever. Would you be willing to say, like Esther, if I perish, I perish? I wonder, are you working for things that will last forever? I wonder, is God telling you to wake up? You've been idling in your palace, unaware of what's happening. But now he's calling you to work for him. I wonder, is God calling you to stand up for him, making your identity known. Yes, I am a Christian. This is what I believe. And then there's Mordecai. I love how Mordecai has total confidence in God. If you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place. Mordecai doesn't tell Esther, you are our only hope. No, for Mordecai, God is his first, last, and only hope. He knows God will rescue his people. And he may just use an Esther. Your mission, Esther, if you wish to accept it. He says, who knows but that you have come to royal position for such a time as this? Esther, this could be your God-given opportunity. This could be your God-given moment to shine. What about us? I met a nurse who, with a big smile, quoted me this verse. And she said she'd been able to talk openly about her faith in this time of crisis. Why? Because her colleagues now can see the difference that the Christian faith makes in believers' lives. It makes a difference in their attitude to death. It's not just talk. Christians have got something special, something different. They're not scared. Something which drives away the fear. In this time of crisis, businesses are taking a real hammering. And when we get back and things start to return to normal, there's a lot of work to be done. And some businesses will teeter on the edge of survival. You might get back and go, oh no, what are we going to do? Well, you might remember these words. Who knows but that you have come to royal position for such a time as this? Maybe God has put you in your position, in your company, in your firm at this time because there's something new, something novel, something unique that you can come up with to help the business. You may be called to make some difficult decisions. You may have to make some staff redundant to sell bits of the business. Why? So that lots more people generally in the business can survive and keep on going, to employ more people. You may need to be working longer hours, sacrifice pay, so the company can continue to employ all the team. I don't know. There's lots of problems. And it might be up to you to look at how to solve those. Who knows but that you have come to royal position for such a time as this. I find Esther and Mordecai so encouraging as they remind me God can use anybody, anytime, anywhere to achieve his purposes. The guys weren't perfect, but they were willing to be used when the time came. Are you? So those are the actors. Now, back to the story. While Haman plots and dreams of the destruction of the Jews, Esther's prayer is answered, and she goes in to see King Xerxes. Now, I don't know why she doesn't just blurt out what she wants there and then, but I'm so glad she didn't. She delays, and she invites him and Haman to a special banquet. And Haman is delighted. Woohoo! I've made it! I'm going to have dinner with the king and the queen, and it's just us. Wow, fantastic! I have made it. He's so excited. He goes home, tells his wife, and she says, oh, that's fantastic. That means your plan is a surefire hit. This is it. Life isn't going to get any better. Brilliant. Let's build a 75-foot gallows which we can hang Mordecai on. And that's what he does. Soon everyone will be able to see Mordecai hanging in the wind off the gallows like some strange fruit. Life doesn't get any better than this. Now, here's where some odd things start to happen. The night before the banquet, Xerxes can't sleep. Why that night? Of all nights. Now, there's no Xanax for Xerxes, so he calls for the the book of the chronicles, the records of Xerxes' reign, to be read to him out loud. After all, everyone knows a good history book is better than any sleeping pill. And they're more healthy too, because they're full of dates. Anyway, the guy just so happens to open the book at the record where Mordecai has foiled the assassination plot against Xerxes. Why that bit? Why did he open it at just that bit? And luckily, Xerxes is wide enough awake to go, hey, what happened to that guy? What do we do for him? I owe him my life. Nothing. So next day, King asks Haman, how should the king honour someone really special? And Haman thinks to himself, this is me, this is. And he has a little daydream about how he would like to be honoured in the streets on a horse and cloak, and prince going before him going, this is how the king honours somebody really special. And he's picturing himself being treated like that. And then the king says, brilliant idea. I'm glad I thought of it. And Haman, yes, your majesty, Haman, put Mordecai on that horse. Huh? And you lead him through the streets, telling everybody how great Mordecai is. Picture Mordecai looking like Edward Munch's The Scream. It's pretty funny. And the Jews to this day, when they're celebrating the festival of Purim, which is the festival based on the story of this book, there's a lot of laughter at this point. How ironic. Anyway, Haman then comes back to the banquet, and Esther tells the king about the plot against the Jews and how they're all going to be wiped out. And sadly, that includes me too. Who would dream of doing such an evil thing? Says Xerxes. And I want to go, you, Xerxes, you agreed to this plot, you idiot. But that's the privilege of power. You can deny all knowledge and responsibility. Or in my case, you can blame the deacons. Who dreamed up this terrible scheme? It's him, Haman, says Esther. Xerxes is apoplectic with rage, and he storms out. Meanwhile, Mordecai falls on the couch, begging Esther. He said, Esther, there's been a terrible misunderstanding. I didn't realise who you were. And anyway, some of my best friends are Jews. And weirdly, at just this moment, Xerxes comes back in the room and it's like a scene out of Hello, Hello. What's happening here? Get off my wife. And then Xerxes sends Xerxes away, kill him. And Haman is hung on the gallows that he made, literally hoist on his own petard. So what's this mean for us today? Well, I'm sure you've seen throughout this story, there's a lot of coincidences. Now you could conclude, this Mordecai chap, he's a really lucky guy, isn't he? I'm going to go and get him to buy me a lottery ticket. Or you could say, there's just too much coincidence here. This has all the hallmarks of God's fingerprints all over this story. And that's the right conclusion. There's a proverb which goes, the lot is cast into the lap, but its every decision is from the Lord. Haman cast the dice, the pur, that's what the dice are called, and he set in motion a plan to destroy God's people. But God turned that bad omen into a good omen. The day Purim became a day when Jews celebrate not their desolation, but their deliverance. And at the end of the story, Mordecai is dressed like a king with a crown and a purple robe, and people are celebrating, and Gentiles, non-Jews, decide to become Jews that day. It's a great victory. As believers, we see the same dynamic at the cross. The religious leaders, the Romans, Pilate, Satan, all conspired to put to death the Son of God. The cross was meant to be the day God is defeated. But Good Friday turns out to be a great day of deliverance. The day of the defeat of God's enemies. The time when many outsiders, like us, join God's people. The story of Esther cheers me greatly. Knowing God is working behind the scenes in my life, making sure that his purposes are being accomplished, that encourages me. Maybe in this time of lockdown, as you reflect a bit on your life, thank God for the way he's worked in your life, how the things that have happened to you have turned out for good. Those divine appointments when you met someone unexpected and you were able to help them, or they were able to help you, or you got an unexpected phone call at just the right moment when you were feeling down. That's God working in his hidden way, in ordinary ways, helping us and achieving his good purposes. Thank God for all those moments and how he's been working through your life, giving thanks. I think of a supermarket worker, a Christian lady, who got 4 packs of 4 toilet rolls, which she was going to give to families in need. And unfortunately, each of the families that she thought of had actually got the toilet rolls. So now she was in a quandary because it looks like she's stockpiled toilet rolls. She's got 16 toilet rolls. What do you do? Not a good look. Now, at this point, a customer comes into the shop and seeing the empty aisle of toilet rolls and seeing the sign saying that, toilet rolls are now rationed to so many per customer, this customer bursts into tears. And the supermarket worker has a conversation with her. Turns out this woman needs toilet roll, and she doesn't just need the ration, she needs 16 toilet rolls. I'm not stockpiling, I need 16. Turns out that this woman has an ongoing medical condition which requires a lot of toilet roll. I'm going to say no more. So the supermarket worker says, that's interesting. Come with me. And takes her to the boot of her car, opens up and says, here, and hands her 16 rolls of toilet paper. How much do I owe? Nothing. This is a gift from God for you. Now, was that just lucky? Or was that God? Esther teaches me to trust God is working for the good. Even when I can't see him working, even when I can't feel his presence, I know he's there, working to achieve his good, perfect purposes. At a time like this, when people ask, where is God? It's good to know, isn't it, that God is still working mysteriously and wonderfully for the good of all his people. Hallelujah.